Dressed like that, what exactly did you expect?
The words dropped into the middle of Iron Core Gym on a Tuesday afternoon like a spark in dry air. Then came the sound. Sharp, loud, unmistakable. Brad Kowalski's hand landed hard across Naomi Carter's backside as she walked back from the water fountain. The crack echoed off the rubber flooring. The steel racks, the mirrored walls. For a split second, everything froze. Not because people didn't understand what happened, but because they understood it perfectly. Kowalski didn't hesitate, didn't apologize. He grinned, turned toward his friend Danny Flack and said, loud enough for half the room to hear, "Relax. Take it as a compliment. Some girls would say thank you." Flack burst out laughing, bending forward, slapping his knee like it was the funniest thing he'd heard all week. 15 feet away, the gym owner, Marcus Webb, stood watching. He had known Naomi for years. He had just seen everything. He cleared his throat and said nothing, not one word, not one person. Stepped in, not one voice objected. Around 20 people were in that gym, and every single one of them suddenly found something else to look at. Shoelaces, phones, mirrors, anywhere. But Herdot Kowalski absorbed the silence like approval, like applause. He shrugged, casually. Can't even take a joke. Typical Naomi. Was wearing what most women wore to train. Fitted black sports bra, high-waisted shorts, clothes made for movement, not attention. For strength, not display. Her body reflected years of discipline, lean, powerful, controlled. But to Kowalski, none of that mattered. What he didn't know, what no one in that room knew, was that Naomi Carter wasn't just another gym member. She was ranked 4th in the country in professional MMA. She had broken ribs in competition. She had ended fights before the final round, and in 6 weeks, she was stepping into a national title fight. And the woman stretching quietly near the mirrors, she had already pressed record. Naomi had been coming to Iron Core Gym for 8 years. 8 years of routine, walking through the same doors. Dropping her bag on the same bench, putting in the same relentless, worked out early mornings, late night sessions that left her flat on the mat, staring at the ceiling, completely drained, but never finished. She had started here when the gym was barely holding itself. Together, old equipment, worn out mats, a single working treadmill. Back when Marcus Webb was just a man trying to build something. She had grown with the place, and the place had grown because of people like her. Naomi started fighting at 19. Her first real training space was a converted storage room in a community center. Too heavy, bags, cracked mirrors, and a coach who saw potential where others didn't. Darnell Okafor, a former fighter, himself, someone who had come close to greatness and lost it to injury. Since then, he had poured everything he knew into fighters who still had their shot. Naomi was his best, and everyone who mattered knew it. 14 wins, 2 losses, both early in her career. Since then, 12 straight victories, 6 by TKO, 3 by submission, 3 dominant decisions where judges had nothing to debate. She wasn't just good, she was precise, disciplined, dangerous, and in 6 weeks, she would fight for the title she had spent nearly a decade chasing. That Tuesday wasn't supposed to matter. It was a light training, day footwork drills. Controlled movement, nothing risky, nothing intense. She arrived at 2:15 p.m., changed, stepped onto the floor with her earbuds in, already focused. She noticed Kowalski the moment she walked, and it was hard not to. He was loud, confident in the way some men are when they've never been challenged. 34. Broad shoulders, the kind of presence that assumed it belonged wherever it stood. He and Flack treated the gym like it was theirs, weights left loaded, voices always raised, comfort always prioritized over anyone else's. Focus. Naomi had met men like him her entire life. She didn't engage, didn't react. She just trained. Footwork first, sharp, precise movements drilled into muscle memory, pivots, angles, balance. For 20 minutes, she existed in her own space. Then the heavy bag, then the squat rack, set by set, controlled breathing, measured effort, everything exactly as planned. By the third set, she needed water. She racked the bar, pulled out one earbud, and walked toward the fountain. 12 seconds. That's all it took. Kowalski was coming from the opposite direction, mid-conversation, laughing at his own joke before finishing it. They crossed paths, and then, that moment. That slap, deliberate, unrushed, intentional, not an accident, not a mistake, a message. You're here for me, not for yourself. Naomi stopped walking completely, still. Not frozen, not shocked. Controlled. The kind of stillness only elite fighters have, where everything inside tightens instead of breaks. She turned around slowly across the room. The woman near the mirrors quietly adjusted her phone angle. Still, recording. The gym had gone silent. Again. But this silence felt different. Heavier. More. Aware. Naomi stood a few feet from Kowalski, her earbud hanging loose. Her eyes locked onto his. She didn't blink, didn't shake, didn't raise her voice. Don't touch me again. Her tone wasn't loud, wasn't soft, it was precise, controlled. The kind of voice that doesn't need volume to carry weight. For a fraction of a second, Kowalski hesitated. Something uncertain flickered across his face. Then it disappeared, replaced by that same grin. Oh, wow, he said, stepping back theatrically, hands raised. Relax, I was being friendly. He glanced at Flack. Was I not being friendly? Very friendly, Flack replied, smirking. Kowalski turned back, eyes dragging slowly over Naomi. Wouldn't think someone dressed like that would be so sensitive. And still, no one spoke, no one moved, no one stepped forward. Only the quiet sound of a phone recording everything. The silence didn't break, it stretched. Heavy, uncomfortable, real. Naomi didn't look away from him. Not when he spoke. Not when Flack laughed. Not even when the entire room chose to pretend nothing had happened. She stood there, completely still but not passive. Focused, measured, like she had already processed everything and reached a conclusion. Across the room, the woman with the phone, Priya, adjusted her grip slightly, making sure the frame stayed clear. Every second mattered now. Every word, every expression. Kowalski leaned slightly to the side, reaching into his gym bag placed on a nearby bench. The movement looked casual, but it wasn't random. As he shifted things around, something became visible. Badge clipped inside the inner flap of his bag, positioned just enough so it could be seen. He didn't point to it, didn't mention it directly. He didn't need to. I do this for a living, you know, he said almost conversationally. Out there every day, keeping people safe. A pause. Then just slightly firmer. You might want to watch how you talk to people. Flack nodded beside him. Arms crossed now, expression more serious. Like he suddenly understood the weight behind what was being implied. It wasn't just a man. Anymore, it was authority, and the room felt it. That was the moment something shifted, not loudly, not visibly, but enough. At the edge of the gym floor, Marcus Webb finally stepped forward, clipboard still in his hand, face tight, voice controlled. Hey, he said, forcing a light tone that didn't match the situation. Let's just calm down, all right? Don't need to escalate this. He spread his hands slightly as if balancing something fragile. It's all good. We're all good here. Then he looked directly at Naomi. Why don't you just take a few minutes? Get some air. The words landed wrong. Everyone knew it, but no one said it. Naomi turned her head slowly and looked at him. Just looked. Marcus stopped mid-breath. For a second, he looked like he might correct himself, like he might finally say the right thing. He didn't. He put his hands on me. Marcus. Naomi's voice was calm, not emotional, not loud, just clear. A fact placed directly in front of him. Marcus glanced at Kowalski, then back at Naomi, then down at his clipboard. I'm sure it wasn't meant to be. It was exactly what it was meant to be. She cut him off, still calm, still controlled. But now there was no room left for interpretation. The silence that followed was different. Now heavier, honest, unavoidable. Naomi didn't argue further, didn't raise her voice, didn't repeat herself. She reached for her towel, picked up her water bottle, and began gathering her things, slowly, deliberately, not like someone being pushed out, but like someone choosing to leave. Behind her, Kowalski let out a small laugh. louder this time, encouraged by her movement, completely misunderstanding it. "Yeah, that's right," he said to the room. "Walk away." His voice carried now, trying to reclaim control. Some people just can't take a joke. Everything's offensive these days. A couple of people shifted awkwardly. One or two nodded slightly. Not agreement, just discomfort, the kind of nod people give when they want something to end. Not when they believe it. Naomi reached the exit, her bag over her. Shoulder hand on the door. She paused, didn't turn around, didn't look back, but she spoke, quietly, clearly. "You're going to understand why that was a mistake. No anger, no drama, just certainty." Then she pushed the door open and walked out. For a moment, no one moved. Then Kowalski scoffed lightly, looked at Flack. What was that supposed to mean? He glanced around the room, almost amused. Anyone? No one answered. Across the gym, Priya slowly lowered her phone. Her recording stopped. She looked at the screen. 47 seconds, clear angle, clear. Audio. Everything visible. The impact. The words. The bad. She locked her phone, slipped it back into her bag, and for a few seconds, just sat there thinking. Naomi sat in her car in the parking lot, engine off, hands resting loosely on the steering wheel. She wasn't crying, wasn't shaking. Her breathing was steady, controlled. This wasn't new to her, not the situation, not the feeling, but the difference was, this time she wasn't going to let it pass. She closed her eyes briefly and did what her coach had taught her after every fight: break it down, remove emotion, look at facts. One by one, a man had touched her without consent in public in front of witnesses. He had used his position, his badge, as an implied threat. The gym owner had seen it and redirected the situation onto her. No one had spoken, not one person. She reached for her phone, opened her notes, typed, time, 3:22 p.m., location, Iron Core, gym name, Brad Kowalski. Then she wrote everything in order, precise, clear, no exaggeration, no missing details, just facts. Because facts were enough. They always were. She stared at the screen for a few seconds after finishing, then locked her phone, started the engine, and pulled out of the parking lot. Across town, Priya sat at her kitchen table hours later, laptop open, phone beside her, the video still there, untouched. She had watched it already, more than once. Each time, clearer than before. There was no confusion, no misinterpretation, no angle where it looked like anything else. She knew what it was, and she knew what it could become. But she also knew something else. The risk, the attention, the consequences. For him, for her, for the woman in the video. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard, then stopped. She leaned back, exhaled slowly, and said quietly to herself, "What's the right thing to do?" And for the first time that day, that question didn't feel simple anymore. Naomi didn't drive home. She drove straight to the police station. The decision wasn't emotional. It wasn't rushed. It was calculated, deliberate, the same way she approached a fight. The Riverside Police Department sat under the late afternoon sun, clean glass doors, neutral walls, the kind of place designed to feel official. Controlled. Naomi parked, stepped out, walked in, no hesitation. At the front desk, a young officer looked up from his monitor. Mid-20s, neutral expression, the kind trained to stay unreadable. "Can I help you?" Naomi stood straight. "I'd like to file a complaint." A small pause. "What kind of complaint?" "Sexual harassment and assault," she said evenly. "By one of your officers." That got his attention. Not visibly dramatic, just enough. "Name of the officer?" "Brad Kowalski." For a fraction of a second, something flickered across his face, gone just as quickly. He reached for a form. "All right. Go ahead." He asked the standard questions. "Name, address, contact number." Then, "Can you describe what happened?" Naomi did, clearly, sequentially. No added emotion, no exaggeration. Just facts. Every detail placed exactly where it belonged. The officer wrote slowly, too. Slowly. "You said he struck you," he said after a moment. "Yes, with what exactly?" His hand, a pause. "Was there a weapon involved?" Naomi looked at him. "He slapped me," she said, "in a public gym, without consent." Another pause. I understand, he said carefully, though his tone suggested hesitation more than understanding. I'll need to get a supervisor. That's fine, Naomi replied. I'll wait. She waited 14 minutes, long enough to notice everything. The quiet hum of computers, the low conversations behind closed doors, the way people moved around her but not toward her. Finally, a man stepped out. Older, gray at the temples, measured posture. Sergeant Calloway. He took the form, read it once. Then, again, then looked up at Naomi. Officer Kowalski is a 7-year veteran, he said. Clean. Record. Steady tone. The kind of statement meant to set context. Naomi didn't react. Does a clean record mean I wasn't touched without consent? Calloway exhaled lightly. We take complaints seriously, he said. But we also have to consider context. A gym environment can sometimes... I'm not asking you to consider context. Naomi interrupted. Her voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. I'm asking you to take a formal complaint. Pause. Longer this time. The kind that forces a decision. Calloway looked at the form again, then set it down. We'll look into it. The words sounded final, like something meant to end the conversation, not begin an investigation. Naomi held his gaze. 3 seconds, then, I'd like a copy of the complaint, with a case number and timestamp. That at least he couldn't avoid. She left the station with the paper in her hand. Timestamp 4:07 p.m. She sat in her car again, just like before. Only now, there was something official, something documented, something real. Then she made a call. Her mother picked up on the second ring. What happened? Naomi hadn't said anything yet, but her mother already knew. Naomi told her everything: the gym, the slap, the silence, the badge, the police station, the tone, the dismissal hidden behind procedure. Her mother was quiet for a moment, then softly, Are you sure you want to push this? Naomi looked straight ahead. He put his hands on me in front of 20 people, she said, and every single one of them looked away. A pause. Then I went to the department, and they told me about his clean record. Silence again. Longer this time. Then her mother asked, What do you need? Naomi didn't hesitate. I need my coach. That night she contacted Darnell. Just one message. Something happened. I need to talk. Tonight. 3 days passed. Nothing. No call. No email. No update. Every morning, Naomi checked the complaint portal. The same message appeared each time. Status. Under review. 2 words. Empty. Non-committal. Unmoving. On the 4th day, she called. Calloway wasn't available. She left her number. No response. She called again later. This time, a different officer answered. Complaints involving personnel can take up to 30 business days, he said, reading it like a script. 30 days, 6 weeks. The same amount of time left before her title fight. Naomi hung up, called Darnell, told him everything. He listened quietly, then said, I'm going to make some calls. And he did. Contacts oldie. Connections. People who owed him favors. A retired detective, a city official, liaison inside the department. Every conversation ended the same. Way polite, careful, non-committal. Then he called the police union, asked directly, What happens to complaints like this? The tone changed instantly. Officer Kowalski is a member of this union, the representative said. Any complaint goes through internal review before action. I didn't ask about action, Darnell replied. I asked about the complaint. The answer didn't change when he hung up. He already understood. The system wasn't broken, it was working. Exactly the way it was designed. To that same day, Kowalski found out, not officially, but the way information always travels inside systems, fast, quiet, through the right people. He laughed when he heard. She filed a report for that. But there was something behind the laugh, something tighter, less certain. The next afternoon, he went back to the gym, walked straight into Marcus Webb's office, closed the door behind him. Something he had never done before. Your girl filed a complaint on me, Kowalski said, tone casual, almost amused, but not quite. Marcus shifted in his chair. He had been expecting this, dreading it. I'm just saying, Kowalski continued, leaning against the door. This is a community gym, right? Family place. People come here because it feels safe. A pause. Then, wouldn't want that to change. Marcus didn't respond. Immediately, didn't look at him. I'll talk to her, he said finally. Kowalski nodded, satisfied, like he had just handled something. He left that night. Marcus called Naomi. I've been thinking, he said. I just want this resolved. I can offer you 3 months free membership. Naomi didn't even pause. I've been here 8 years, she said quietly. I've never asked for anything free. A beat. Just tell the truth. That's all. Tell someone what you saw. Silence. Then, I don't want trouble. Naomi, I have a business to run. The call ended. Naomi sat on the edge of her bed staring at nothing. Understanding something clearly now. Not that she was wrong. Not that it was impossible, but that this path was longer than it should be. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She picked it up. A message. My name is Priya. We go to the same gym. I have something you need to see. Can we talk? Naomi stared at the screen for a long moment, then typed one word. Yes. They met the next morning, a small coffee shop on Mercer Street. Am quiet. Neutral, the kind of place where conversations don't draw attention. Priya was already there when Naomi walked in. Laptop open, coffee untouched. She looked like someone who hadn't slept, but had decided that didn't matter. Naomi sat across from her. For 2 years, they had only exchanged nods at the gym. No real conversation, no connection. Until now. Priya didn't waste time. She turned the laptop toward Naomi. I started recording before it happened, she said. Her voice was steady but careful. I had been watching him for a while, the way he was looking at you. A pause. I had a feeling. Naomi looked at the screen. The video began. Clear. Stable. No shaking. No confusion. The gym floor. Normal. Routine. Then Naomi walking back from the fountain. Kowalski approaching. The moment. The impact. That sound. Loud. Sharp. Undeniable. Then his voice. Dressed like that. What did you expect? Take it as a compliment. Some girls would say thank you. The frame caught everything, his expression, his body language, and behind him, his bag, slightly open, badge visible, clear enough. 47 seconds. That's all it was. But it was enough. Naomi watched it once, didn't react, watched it again. Still focused. The same stillness she had before a fight. This is clear, she said. No emotion, just truth. Priya nodded. I've watched it over 30 times, she said. There's no angle where it looks like anything else. Silence settled between them. Not awkward, just heavy. Naomi leaned back slightly. What do you want to do with it? Priya wrapped her hands around her cup, took a breath. I want to do the right thing, she said. I just needed to ask you first. A pause. I know there are risks, for both of us. Naomi didn't answer immediately. She thought about the last 4 days. The complaint, the waiting, the silence, the system already deciding without saying it. Then she looked up. Send it to me. A beat, and I need to make a call. That call was to Darnell. He listened, didn't interrupt, didn't react, just absorbed everything. When she finished, he said one name, Jordan Vale. Jordan Vale was a journalist, not the loud kind, not the kind chasing headlines, the kind chasing truth. He had covered Naomi's fights before, knew her record, knew her discipline, but more importantly, he had a reputation. If he took a story, he didn't let go. Darnell gave him the footage, explained everything in under a minute. Vale didn't waste time. Send me the video, he said. I'll call you back. He called back in 40 minutes. I want to run this, he said, but you need to understand something. His tone was calm, direct. Once it's out, you can't control where it goes. It won't come back. Naomi listened, didn't rush. I need 24 hours, she said. I want everything documented first. Smart, Vale replied. While Naomi prepared, Vale started digging. What he found wasn't just one incident. 2 prior complaints. Same officer, different women, same pattern. Both cases had one thing in common. They disappeared. One woman transferred departments weeks later. The other left completely. No follow-up, no action, no resolution. Not hidden, just buried. Vale documented everything. Every date, every detail, every gap. Because the story wasn't just what happened in the gym, it was what happened after. The article went live at 3:15 p.m. Headline: Video evidence. Shows officer assaulting woman in public. Gym complaint filed, no action taken. Within 1 hour it spread. Thousands of views, then hundreds of thousands, then millions. By evening, the video was everywhere. The moment, the sound, the words. Some girls would say thank you. By midnight, millions had seen it. By morning, Naomi Carter's name was trending. People searched her, found her record, her fights, her ranking. The narrative changed instantly. This wasn't just a random woman. This was a professional fighter, disciplined, focused, respected, and she had been dismissed, ignored, told to take a break. The outrage hit harder because of that. But something else spread with it. Respect, because she hadn't reacted violently, hadn't escalated, hadn't lost control. She had done everything right. And still, the system failed her. Inside the police department, things changed overnight. Not because of procedure, not because of the complaint, because of exposure. A captain sat in her office early that morning, reading the article. Twice. Slowly, carefully. Her coffee went cold beside her, then she pressed a button. Get me his full file. A pause, and close my door. Because now, this wasn't something that could be ignored anymore. By the time the sun fully rose the next morning, the story was everywhere. Not just trending, not just viral, unavoidable. Phones buzzed, screens refreshed, news outlets picked it up one after another. The clip kept playing. Again and again and again. Inside the Riverside Police Department, the tone had changed completely. Captain Rhonda Stiles sat behind her desk, the article still open on her screen. She had already watched the video multiple times, not because she needed to, but because she understood what it meant. This wasn't ambiguous. This wasn't complicated. This wasn't something that required interpretation. It was clear. And worse, it was documented. She requested Kowalski's full file at 7:45 a.m. By 8:30. She had read every page. Patterns stood out immediately. Not isolated incidents, not misunderstandings. Patterns. At 9:00 a.m., Sergeant Calloway was sitting across from her. Door closed. Room quiet. Walk me through the complaint, she said. Her tone wasn't aggressive. It didn't need to be. Calloway adjusted in his chair. We received it 4 days ago, he began. Standard intake process. You marked it resolved, Stiles interrupted. Within 1 day. A pause. That's not a review, she continued. That's disposal. Calloway didn't answer immediately, because there wasn't a good answer. Did you take a statement from the officer? She asked. No. Did you contact the complainant with a decision? Silence. Stiles leaned back slightly. This complaint was filed at 4:07 p.m., she said. It was marked resolved the next day before noon. A beat, overnight hours included. She let that sit. That timeline doesn't support investigation. It supports avoidance. Calloway looked down. For the first time, he had nothing to say. By noon, an internal affairs investigation was opened, formal, documented, unavoidable. The union called within minutes. Procedural objections, technical language, pressure. Stiles listened, then responded with one sentence. The video is already in millions of hands. We're past procedure protecting anything. And she hung up. By early afternoon, something else started happening. More voices. Not loud, not coordinated, but real. One woman came forward. Then another. Then another. Different stories. Same pattern. A woman named Christine. An incident at a department event. Reported informally. Dismissed. Another. Patrice. She never reported it. She just left. Transferred quietly. Tried to forget. Then, Tasha Greer. The name that had appeared in Vale's research. She called the department's tip line that afternoon, her voice steady, but careful. For the first time, she gave a full statement, on record. Everything she had held back before, now spoken clearly, because now, she wasn't the only one. Outside Iron Core Gym, media vans began to appear. Cameras, microphones, questions waiting to be asked. Naomi stood there with Darnell beside her. Not dressed for attention, not prepared for performance, just present. She followed the process, Darnell said. His voice controlled. Measured. She filed a complaint. She gave the system a chance. A pause. The system failed her. Naomi didn't speak long. She didn't need to. I didn't do anything wrong, she said. And I knew that the moment it happened. A beat. I want every woman to know the same thing. Inside the gym, Marcus Webb watched from behind the glass. Silent. Still. He had released a statement earlier that morning. Carefully written, carefully worded. We take all concerns seriously. We are reviewing policies. Committed to a safe environment. It said everything, except the truth. It didn't say I saw it happen. It didn't say I told her to leave. Naomi responded with one sentence online. He watched it happen and asked me to reconsider reporting it. That sentence spread almost as fast as the video. Within days, the consequences started showing. Memberships dropped, especially women. Classes canceled. Sponsors quietly pulled out. A boxing group relocated. The gym didn't collapse overnight, but it started sinking, slowly, visibly. And Marcus finally understood something. Too late. Silence is also a decision. And decisions have consequences. Meanwhile, the investigation continued. Calloway was placed under review. His past cases reopened. More complaints surfaced. Old ones, ignored ones. What looked like an isolated mistake was now clearly a pattern. Inside interrogation rooms, statements were taken, timelines reconstructed, reports compared, and everything pointed to the same conclusion. This wasn't one incident. This was a system, protecting itself until it couldn't anymore. The hearing took place on a Thursday morning. Second floor, Riverside Municipal Building, closed room. No cameras, no audience, just people who could no longer look away. Brad Kowalski arrived in full uniform. Pressed. Perfect. Like appearance could still control the outcome. Like it still mattered. It didn't. He sat at the long table, his attorney beside him. Calm, prepared, expensive. Across from them, Captain Stiles, still composed. A single folder in front of her, untouched. Because she didn't need to open it. She already knew everything inside. The hearing began. Formalities first. Names, positions, record established. Then, the video played. 47 seconds. No commentary. No interruption. The sound of the slap filled the room. Louder here. Sharper. Because no one could pretend not to hear it. Kowalski didn't look at the screen. His attorney did. And for the first time, his composure slipped. Just slightly. When it ended, silence. The board chair leaned forward. Officer Kowalski, she said, is there anything in that footage you would describe as inaccurate? His attorney started to speak. My client acknowledges. I'd like him to answer, she interrupted. A pause. Kowalski looked up, jaw tight. That's me, he said. Was that your hand? Yes. Did anyone give you permission to touch them? Silence. Long enough to feel uncomfortable. No. The word landed heavily, because it ended everything. The rest wasn't about what happened anymore. It was about what had been done after. The complaint, The timeline, the missing steps, the decisions, every detail laid out, carefully, precisely. The 2 prior complaints, read into record. Then, Tasha's statement. In full, no summary, no shortcuts. Her words changed the room, not loud, not dramatic, but undeniable. By the time it ended, Kowalski didn't look like the same man. The confidence was gone, not replaced by anger, not even denial, just smaller. The attorney made arguments. Procedural, technical, carefully structured. They didn't hold, because facts don't bend to language. The board left to deliberate. 40 minutes. When they returned, no one needed suspense. Termination, effective immediately. The words were clean. Final. Referral for criminal charges. Sexual assault. Official misconduct. A pause. Then one more. Filing a false report. That one hit differently. Because it meant he didn't just act, he tried to erase it. You're arresting me? He said. Not fully a question. Not fully disbelief. Captain Stiles spoke for the first time. You used your position, she said calmly, to make someone feel like they had no protection. A beat. That's not what this job is. 2 officers stepped forward. The same uniform, the same system, but this time, it wasn't protecting him. The handcuffs clicked. Outside, cameras were waiting. Flashes went off as he was walked out, head down, shoulders collapsed. The same man who had smiled in that gym now couldn't look up. 3 blocks away, Naomi sat in her car. Her phone rang. Darnell. She listened, didn't interrupt, didn't react immediately. Then, okay, that was it. No celebration, no speech, no emotion. She started the engine, drove back to the gym, changed, wrapped her hands and finished her training. Every set, every rep, every round, because that's who she was. Before, during, after. 6 weeks later, 12,000 people filled an arena. Naomi Carter walked out under bright lights, noise crashing over her like waves. Same black gear, same focus, same calm, no anger, no distraction, just clarity. The fight lasted 3 rounds. It wasn't close. Precision, control, dominance. 1 minute, 40 seconds into round 3. It ended. TKO. The crowd erupted. Naomi didn't celebrate wildly, didn't scream, didn't perform. She stood still for a moment, closed her eyes, let the sound hit her. Then, she walked to her opponent, checked on her. Respect, always. The interviewer stepped forward, microphone raised. 6 weeks ago, your name was everywhere, he said. What does this moment mean to you? Naomi took the mic, looked out, then directly into the camera. A man put his hands on me without my consent, she said, voice steady, clear, and then hid behind a badge. Silence fell across the arena. I filed a report. It was buried in less than a day. A pause. But someone recorded it. Another pause. And someone else found the courage to speak. She looked straight into the lens. I had support. I had resources. Most women don't. Her voice didn't break, didn't rise. That doesn't make their truth smaller. The arena was completely still. If you see something, record it. If something happens, report it. A beat. And don't be the person who looks away. Because that was the real message. Months later, everything settled. Kowalski was convicted, sentenced, Calloway demoted. The gym closed, investigations reopened. Policies changed, not instantly, not perfectly, but enough to prove one thing. Systems don't change on their own. People change them. One morning, months later, Naomi walked into a gym again. Same routine, same focus. She loaded the bar, set her stance, looked into the mirror, and started her set. Like nothing had changed, and everything had. Power without accountability is abuse. Silence is not neutral. And one person who refuses to look away can change everything.